My name's Kline Swonger. I am a second-year MFA graduate candidate in sculpture, and I just wanted to start off by thanking the SDSU Art Council. This has been tremendous, a tremendous experience, and then we also all feel so thankful for your generous support. So thank you. So a little bit about my background. I come from North Hollywood. I grew up in a family of 4. This is my brother and I playing outside, and as Nancy mentioned, we spent a lot of our time playing across the street from our house in a vacant lot. And both of my parents were really big advocates for the arts and encouraged us. And I had a really amazing childhood with the exception of one thing. I had an undiagnosed eye convergence issue, which hindered my ability to read. And what I ended up doing is kind of looking at images and developing a visual language in that way to understand stories. Eventually it was detected when I was in about the 3rd or 4th grade. I got glasses and did some extensive eye exercises, and that totally transformed my experience and relationship with education and reading. I eventually went on to high school and then on to college. And I used kind of this visual language and curiosity with art and ended up pursuing hand drawing and focused on my passion for the environment. And I really continued to do both of those as I moved into college. And one summer I came back home and realized that the vacant lot I had grown up with and spent a lot of my time had been fenced off for development. And this was the first time a fence had been put up that had separated me from a place that I had such a strong emotional connection with. So from that, I started to do research and photograph a lot of the fences throughout Los Angeles and created a body of work that was looking at this and the psychological implications of fences as barriers. In this particular piece, the nails create a shadow chain link fence on the wood. So I ended up graduating. It was 2008. I moved to San Diego, and the economy crashed. And although I wanted to pursue art, it wasn't a financial possibility for me. So I did a lot of other work. I started doing environmental consulting and then eventually transitioned into landscape design. And when I transitioned, I realized that I had stopped making my work, and with that, a part of me had kind of been held back. So I started making work, applying for shows, and I met this woman, Alejandra Montezuma, and she encouraged me to apply for an MFA program. So I did. It was something that I'd always wanted to do, but never really thought that that was in my cards. And I was accepted to SDSU, and the summer before, I started doing more murals and placemaking projects and got really excited about this new opportunity in my life. And a couple weeks before I entered the program, a close friend of mine had passed away. I did not expect this.
Take your time.
And that really affected my work. I'm sorry. So I began to ask why when people go to die, are they attracted to certain places? So I started developing work around that, and I was building these rock cairns, as you'll see in the next slide, as a way to kind of process that experience.
Tell us what Cairn is.
Thank you. So these are these rock cairns that are built to guide people on trails or sailors that come in to sea. And I started photographing myself with them. And when somebody passes away, you're also looking at like the implications of time and how that affects the body and the object. So in this piece, I was collecting objects that had been worn and put them into this box and sandblasted the outside of the box. And then I was also looking at ways of capturing the essence of place and presence of people in a space through these objects that I was casting found objects into. And kind of through this process, I was also looking at the idea of mark making. So in this piece, I took plaster and I was casting plaster on the floor and stringing them together into this large formalized structure. And it was the first time that I had really been working intuitively. And that was very confusing for me because before that, a lot of my work was really planned out. So I started to look a little deeper into what it was that was kind of bubbling up inside. So I returned to a couple readings that had influenced me greatly, one of which was Plato's Allegory of the Cave, and also looking into Jungian psychology. And with that, I realized there are these things in all of us that kind of bubble up in our work, and I wanted to explore that more. And one of the things I learned in Jungian philosophy is this idea of the shadow being the unconscious layer of self. And so I wanted to start creating work that was using this very physical form in combination with the shadow. And this piece, called 5'8", is made out of cardboard dipped in asphalt emulsion. 5'8" is dimensions of my body. And I was looking at these very organic forms that to me represented cancer cells or different social structures of bees or insects, and using them to kind of transform the space through use of light and shadow, and also provide opportunity for personal reflection. And going forward, I'd like to continue doing more installation work that uses the physical in contrast with the shadow. And as Nancy mentioned, my goal is to do public art in the future. And last year, I had the opportunity to teach at San Diego State, and that's also a big goal of mine, to be able to be a facilitator of learning and to allow students to get curious about their world and kind of understanding the perception of themselves and how that can be affected through their understanding of art and design. Thank you.